Well, good morning. This is not how I expected to be here. I expected to be the chauffeur, but I'm excited to be here anyway. So I know that you probably have no idea who I am, or maybe even who Kevin is. And I'm sorry for you because he is an amazing man that I love to listen to every Sunday. Like, I get to travel around for the last 19 years and hear him teach on prayer, and every week I go, wow. But you guys get me this morning, so it'll be great. Um, but I hesitate to not talk about his latest book because that's really one of the reasons that I love him, because he's so simple and he takes the gospel and breaks it down for the regular person. And what he did is he wrote his fourth book, which in my mind is an accomplishment. I wrote one book and went, I'm good. Like, that's enough. I don't need to do any more. Like, thank you, Lord. That's over. But he actually just got done writing a book that he took 7 years to write, and it's called Spiritual Warfare for the Normal Christian. And I just really want to encourage you to look at this book. This is a book that just breaks down spiritual warfare and makes it not intimidating. It just makes it like, I can do this. In fact, yesterday, I will tell you, was not a great day. It was an audible day. It was a day that I was like, oh, I'm preaching. Great, here we go. Saturday, and now I'm driving 2.5 hours. I got to the hotel. I did a lot of crying. It was a really great time. And, the Lord reminded me that He's with me. And He will stand with me no matter what you walk through. And if you hear nothing else I say today, I want you to remember that. That no matter what you're walking through, God sees it and He's walking with you. So take a minute, look at this. You may be able to read it in like an hour. I know I did, but I've actually taken time and gone back through because there are some real gems in here. So that is my only advertisement for today. Are you okay now? Okay, everybody can now relax and go, okay, she's done advertising. I'm not going to go through all the books in the back. You don't need that. It's okay. So Kevin and I have been married for 28 years. I know I don't look that old, do I? I know, right? So we've been married for 28 years, and I remember when I was 16 years old, we were at a camp at Lake Geneva Bible Camp. Anybody go to Lake Geneva Bible Camp? Come on, woo! Men's Advance is coming soon. We were at Lake Geneva Bible Camp, and I'm at the altar going, Lord, here I am, tell me something, right? Like when you're at the altars, you're always asking God for something, and He was like, hey, Jen, see that guy over there? And I was like, yeah, he's kind of cute. I'm dating him. Yeah, I see him. He's like, I want you to marry him. And I was like, no. No, I'm good. He wants to be a pastor. Ugh. I mean, I was like, no thanks, I'm good. And he's like, no, he's the one you're going to marry. And I was like, okay, well, I actually cried for 2 weeks. Not because I didn't like him. I thought he was a great man. I mean, we were 16 and 17. I mean, what do you know? I didn't know if I knew, But I really wanted to be a missionary. I wanted to be a missionary so bad and teach all the crocodiles about Jesus because I didn't like people. So I wanted to teach the crocodiles about Jesus. And really the lesson to that is keep your heart soft before the Lord because He will use everything in your life. And so over the last 19 years, we actually pastored a church for 9 years. And over the last 19 years, we have gone overseas and done mission work and been with missionaries and been with them in their lowest times and prayed with them and spent time with them and loved on them. In fact, in last July, we were in Sri Lanka, which is where my husband's from. The last name is Senapatiratne. I'm Jennie. It's okay. We were in Sri Lanka, and I was sitting at a table with 20 pastors' wives from that country. Pastors' wives that were a big deal in a small church and big churches. And I got to share and just encourage them and pray with them. And that was the moment that I thought, okay, God, you didn't forget my heart of being a missionary. I get to be a pastor's wife, and I get to do what God God put the desire in my heart for. So sometimes you kind of feel like God gives you a dream and it makes no sense. And you're like, well, that was nice. I wanted to be that, and that didn't happen because now here I am. And God is like, no, I've put these desires in your heart, and I want to continue those. And speaking of that, we are going to talk about my favorite person in the Bible today. All right, are you excited? Because you're like, who could her favorite person be? And yes, my favorite person in the Bible is Jesus. Okay, let's be very real. But when it comes to Bible stories, my favorite Bible story in the whole world takes place in Joshua 2. So Joshua 2 is right after they have been walking in the wilderness for 40 years. So we have the group of Israelites who have been walking. Now, their parents were the ones that were walking in the wilderness, but they've been raised in the wilderness, okay? This whole generation has been raised as nomads. And all of a sudden, God's like, we are going to take Jericho. We're going to do this, right? And they're going, well, okay, that sounds good. Like, we've been wandering. It's been fine. It hasn't been great, but it's been fine. And so I kind of feel like there's maybe a little bit of, well, we'll see how this goes, God. Have you ever been there? Like, I'll follow you, but we'll kind of see how it goes. And I really think that's what was happening in Joshua 2. But in Joshua 2, we meet one of my favorite people, the prostitute Rahab. Now, all of a sudden, you're like, wow, this wasn't audible, right? What are they doing bringing this woman in? But I love Rahab, first of all, because she is mentioned in the Bible 5 times, which is huge for a woman. When you read through the book of the Bible, you don't get to hear a lot of women in this book. In fact, even the women that are mentioned, like Noah's wife, that's actually what my book is on, is the unnamed zookeeper, because she doesn't even get her name in the Bible. Like, she's mentioned, she walks through all the crazy stuff with Noah, and she doesn't even get named. Rahab gets named 5 times. And in my opinion, that means that she's someone we should be paying attention to. She's not only mentioned in the New Testament and the Old Testament, like, she's just, like, they don't drop her, which is amazing. She is a woman that is known by the king. When you look in Joshua 2:2, the king mentions her and is like, let's go find out what she knows. She is not someone that is not of significance. She lives on the wall, which means that she had wealth, probably because of what she did, but she had wealth. She owned her own home, which was a huge deal back in those days for a woman. To own their own home on the wall means that she was a woman with influence and money. She had the pulse of the community, which is so interesting to me because I've actually never met a prostitute until I actually preached this somewhere in St. Paul, and they were like, well, now you have. And she told me all about it, and she's like, you really do know the pulse of the community. You really do know what's going on. You really do get to know the people that are in power. She is one of those women that has all this going for her, but she's heard of a God from afar. She's never actually interacted with God. She's never actually had anything to do with the Israelites. She's just heard of the miracles of the Israelites and the things that he has done for the Israelites. And these 2 men come into her home, which I've always questioned and gone, this is where you go, but that's where they went. They went into her home, and she quickly decided that their God was the one to follow. It was not a like, well, let's think about this. Why don't we sit down and have a cup of coffee and make some decisions, and you can tell me a little more about your God. She didn't have time for that. She just decided that she had heard about the God who had parted the Red Sea, the God who had brought manna into the wilderness, the God who had protected his people for years, and said, you know what? I will follow your God. And she hid the Israelites, right? We all know the story. And we're all there. We're thinking about it like when we were little kids. And we're like, oh, yeah, remember when they hid under the hay? I remember a sermon very vividly where they talked about hay and how smelly it was. And I was like, oh, that's disgusting. Why would you hide in the hay? But, it's that or die. So I'm guessing that's why they chose that. So she gets them out. They get back. They have promised her that we will save you. And so bring all your people that you want to save to your house. Okay, so this is where my faith would start rattling, guys. I got to be honest. It's one thing for me to believe, but for me to be like, okay, so I had these two random strangers in my house hiding in the hay. They said they were going to save us. So come over to my house. I'm putting out a red thing, and we're going to see what happens. Because they didn't have authority, the two guys that were in her home. They were not the ones calling the shots. So would their leader actually save them? But she was like, but it's the God that parted the Red Sea. Maybe, just maybe, he sees me too. Maybe, just maybe, he sees you too. And so the Israelites get up one day and they start moving towards Jericho, and I'm guessing her heart was racing. She was like, oh my goodness, here it comes. They're going to attack us. Woo, I'm going to be saved. And they walk around the city. And I'm guessing she was like, okay, you know what? Scouting. They're totally just trying to figure it out, see what's going on. It's fine. God is still in charge. So they're walking around. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Tomorrow, everybody come back. It'll be fine. The next day, they come back, and they walk around the city. Now, I don't know about you, because you're probably people of great faith. But on day 3, I'd be going, what have I done? Now I've betrayed my country. I'm going to die if they find out that I've betrayed my country. And they're just walking around the city. Okay, I have made a mistake. Day 4, day 5, day 6. You are standing there going, this was a mistake. I thought God was bigger than this. Now, I'm sure none of you have ever thought that, but I have. I thought God was bigger than this. I thought he saw me. Day 7, they come out, and she's like, oh, great, they're walking again. And they come out, and all of a sudden, they have instruments, and they're singing horribly. At least that's how I imagine it. I do not imagine choirs of great things. I imagine a bunch of men, that's what I imagine, because that's just kind of how I would think it would go. And she's going, now what's going on? And the walls fall. She's saved. And that's kind of where we leave her story there. Now we're going to switch to my life. Now, I have told you that we've been married for 28 years. And I am a woman that loves children. In fact, I've always wanted more children than you should probably talk about. And we were not able to get pregnant for a very long time. In fact, I actually started praying for other women. And we were attending a church. We had been married for 8 years at this point. And we had just left our last church and just started Christ Connection, the traveling ministry. And I was in charge of every shower in the church. And I will tell you how that church grew. It grew by babies, is how that church grew. I was like, people are winking at each other and babies are popping out. It was just the craziest season. I was throwing a baby shower at least once a weekend. I mean, I was like, what is happening? What's in the water? Why am I not drinking enough of it? It was crazy. And I remember every single week I would come home and go, God, why not me? Lord, why not me? I am a really great person. I'm hilarious. And I would make a really great mom. Why not me, Lord? I know their story, maybe not them. I'll take their baby. It was a really dark, deep place. And what God also started during this season, which was a hoot, was he would give me dreams of people before they got pregnant. It was fabulous. So I'd get a dream, and someone would come to me and say, Jennie, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, yes, you are, I know. Because God had given me a dream. And every night I'd go to bed going, God, I want my own dream. God, I want my own dream. And one night, I had a dream, and it was me, big old belly, standing in front of the Liberty Bell. And I was like, yes, Lord, here we go. I was so excited. I mean, can you tell even now? Like, the emotions are high. Every time I see a bell, I get really excited. Like, I knew it was a prophetic dream. I just knew it was. And I told my husband, I told nobody else. And in that season, we were traveling with my mom almost every summer. And my mom was like, this is November. And my mom was like, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking we go to Philadelphia. And I was like, I'm thinking the same thing. That's a great plan, Mom. Absolutely. You know what? We'll definitely go to Philadelphia because they have a Liberty Bell there, I hear. No big deal. No pressure on the Liberty Bell, but, it'd be great. And we start planning for this trip. And every month, I'm like, this is the month. Woohoo! It was not. It was not. It was not in January. It was not in February. It was not in March. Not in April. Not in May. And not in June. Which is where I found myself the day we were in Philadelphia. We had driven all the way out there as a family. It's my brother, my sister, my husband, my mom. It is a zoo. My mom stops at every historical fact you could ever stop at, and I am chomping at the bit, like, let's just get to the Liberty Bell. I do not care about all this other stuff. Let's just get there. Like, I am Rahab going, why are you walking around the wall? Let's get there. Woo! I'm a little passionate, sorry. So the morning comes. I know we're going to the Liberty Bell today. We've made our decision to go. We've got our tickets. That's back when you had to have tickets. And that morning I got up and I took a pregnancy test. And you know what? It was negative. It was negative. Cried my tears. Stood in the line for the Liberty Bell. And my husband said, you know, honey, we don't need to take a picture. It's okay. You don't need to. And I said, I do. I need to stand in front of this bell because my God is the God today, yesterday, and forever. The promise he made to me will be completed, and I'm going to stand in front of this Liberty Bell. And I stood in front of the Liberty Bell. I cried like a baby afterwards. I got myself my first caffeine. I had a Coca-Cola that day, and I moved on. And I said, God, you are still God. Came back, got as sick as a dog, because that's what's going to happen. Long story short, found out that I was actually a month pregnant when I was standing in front of that Liberty Bell. Because God supplied, even though I didn't believe. And sometimes in life, you think that's enough. But you know what happens when that first baby comes out normally? All of a sudden, that person that's been dealing with infertility, all of a sudden, they start popping out babies like they are like candy. And all of my girlfriends who had been dealing with infertility all of a sudden had like 4 kids. And I'm like, how did you do that in 2 years? This is incredible. Like, they were twins and stuff, obviously. But it's like Rahab. We actually go back to Rahab in Joshua 6:15 through 19. And do you know where we find her? This big miracle has happened. She has saved Israel. We find her sitting outside the camp. She's not inside. She's not included. She's not part of the Israelite family. She's sitting her camp is outside the camp because she doesn't belong. She has to start her entire life over. She went from a woman of influence and riches to a woman who is shut outside the camp. She doesn't know the customs. She's considered a sinner. She's not accepted. But you know what? God saw her there. God saw her and said, you are going to be in the line of Jesus. Do not give up. And I don't know who feels like they're outside the camp this morning because God did a miracle in your life. God gave me a baby. And I really expected to have many, many more. And now she's 18, so we're not laying hands on me. I do not want another child. Like, let's make that very clear before we go any further, okay? But God has never given me another child. He's never stepped in and said, hey, let's give you more children. Because God had a plan that I didn't fully understand. And it can be hard to have faith. Here's Rahab sitting outside the camp going, I gave up everything for this. Have you ever thought that? I gave up everything for this. And I want you to know that God sees you. That God sees the pain and the struggle and the daily, Lord, where are you moments? And he's faithful. In fact, a couple years ago, was standing up in front of 70 little girls. Because every Wednesday night I taught what we call Impact. And I had 70 little 3rd through 5th grade girls. And I was teaching them about Jesus turning water into Coca-Cola. Because we're AG, okay? Like, let's be there. And so I'm teaching them about water into Coca-Cola. And God just broke something off of my eyes. And I looked out at these 70 girls. And I thought, I would not be standing here if I had more than one child. God would not have opened this door because I might have been too busy. When you have one, it's pretty easy. Like, life's pretty good. Especially when you have my child. Like, she's just kind of like, Mom, I got this. Don't worry about it. I'll self-discipline. Like, just. And I stood there, and God was like, do you see that I answered your prayers? And I was like, what? And he's like, do you see that I've answered your prayers? There are 70 little girls here who are your girls, who you get to pray for, who you get to guide, who you get to love for them till adulthood. And this year is my 2nd year that those little girls are graduating from college. Last year, high school. This year, and I've got at least 20 little girls I've been praying for since they were in 3rd grade. And I get to watch them graduate. Because that's how good God is. It wasn't answered the way I thought it should be answered. Just like Rahab. Like, I put my life on the line, and now I'm outside the camp. But God continued to work miracles in ways that she didn't know he was going to work. He continued to do things. He didn't leave her outside the camp. He didn't say, you know what? You're good. That's as good as you get because you were a prostitute, and, we really don't need your kind. That's not what God did. God continued to work miracles in her life to bring her to the place that she was in the line of Jesus. And the only time she's not called Rahab the prostitute is in the New Testament. Every other time she's referred to as Rahab the prostitute because God had worked a miracle in her life. And I know that there are people in this room that are struggling with something. And it's probably not infertility. It's probably not being a prostitute, being shut outside of Granite Falls. But you're struggling with something this morning. And you're like, Lord, you've left me here. Like, I trusted, I took a step of faith, and it was great at first, and now here I am going, this is not what I thought it looked like. And God sent someone like me here to Granite Falls to say, God sees you, and he's still working. He loves you. He's not done. I don't know what that looks like for you. I don't know what that looks like for you. But I do know that God's not done with this church either. That next time I come, the seats next to you will be filled because you continue to follow after what God calls you to do. So often we can get discouraged and frustrated with our circumstances, and we're like, God, where are you? And God is like, continue to follow after me. And I know that's hard. I've been doing it for, 48 years, I suppose. But when it comes to that one thing in your life you're asking for that relationship to be healed. You're asking for a financial miracle. You're asking for your child to come and love Jesus. Don't give up. I just got done this week talking about a podcast about Hannah and how she bitterly wept before the Lord. And I want to encourage you to bitterly weep before the Lord with what he breaks your heart for, and to continually follow after him in that area and not give up. Don't give up. It looks grim. I get it. It looks grim, but that doesn't mean your miracle's not around the corner. Lord, I realize that my words are inadequate for your love, and my words are inadequate for what you're going to do in people's lives. Because, Lord, I know that you sent me here because you love these people. You love them more than they have any idea, and that you've got plans for this church and the people in this church, Lord. Lord, I pray that you would guide and direct, and that you would help us keep the faith. Even if it's faith of a mustard seed today, Lord, I pray that you would continue to grow it, and that you would continue to work in each and every one of our lives as we follow after you. In your mighty name, amen.